I was sponsored by Arknights Enfield to check out the game and give some of my initial thoughts and experiences on it. Now, granted, I haven't played or indulged in the Arknights series before, so in case you were curious if it's okay to go in blind, I'd say so. And you can see some of my experiences to judge for yourself. Now, if you have played the original, well, you haven't really played this one, because this is a 3D action game instead of like tower defense. It's a bit different, just only slightly. Off the bat, one thing I thought was really nice was the fact that they actually gave me 5 different accounts at separate parts of the game, so I could experience a lot more of what the game had to offer without selling my soul to the god of time. The first account was a brand new one. Got to start at the beginning and choose the male avatar, which I would later learn would be my only time seeing them in my experience. Riding a funky elevator up to the land of Whoopsie Daisy, we meet question mark before noticing the most original material in the world.
Originium.
Holographic yellow paint guides us along, and we do a sponsor-friendly zipline bum pull before getting tossed into some combat tutorials, each going over a new mechanic, which I'll get into later. Whee! Moving on, the air is almost fantasy in a way, but of course it won't be our final, cause out the gate a big diamond is throwing pebbles at us. But in the classic game of rock, paper, scissors, our character knows that gun beats them all, and the structural damage allows us to go on ahead towards the meetup of all my active fans. After deciding that a phallic tower is better than a triangle, a griefer shows up and starts the roaring before getting tossed into the first sort of boss battle. I say sort of because it kind of just gives you characters that you know nothing about and you just use them. Having played video games, I had a feeling that this was the character at max strength jobs it and loses max strength. And sure shooting, this rude dude throws on the stop a clock and you bungle it so bad you game over. But luckily you had an extra guy.
I remember.
Who are you?
The Administrator.
And you are.
Well, gosh dang, we got us a gacha game where the main character knows who they are and doesn't suffer from amnesia.
I can hardly recall anything.
Shoot. So after getting birthed from a rock, we learned the mystery woman was Perlica, who helps you around the SS friend ship and dumps exposition on you before you head out on your first actual mission. I gotta say, I was pretty wowed by the visuals of the game off the bat. The animations and characters look great, but the environments were also like surprisingly detailed. The spaceship was pretty cut and dry, but the rainy ruins you motorcycle to just looked fantastic. Characters even have like a wet texture when it's raining, which is a nice detail. Moving on ahead, you find out the people in the area were kind enough to record their screams, but I had just finished listening to 10 hours of screaming on YouTube occasionally broken up by silence, so I just went on ahead. Now I don't really want to divulge the story a bunch, but I figure it's good to note a key feature here. A lot of people don't pay attention to the story and just want to smack things, which is completely fine. Luckily, in this title, not only can you skip the cutscenes, but you will also get a quick little rundown of what happened in the scene. So if you kinda want to keep up with what's happening, you can do that without listening to everybody talk all the time. So totally not skipping cutscenes, I got up to a mini-boss and was introduced to the charge skill mechanic, where basically the enemy gets a little circle and you can use a damage dealing skill to give him a little slap in the face and say "Meow." This was where I started to get into the combat. So essentially the way that it works is by holding down the attack button, you'll throw out your combos automatically. Doing so will build up your special gauge so that you can use skills. And for this mini boss, you could do that and focus solely on dodging with good timing, hitting character combos and using skills to interrupt his charges. I didn't, but I think it would definitely be doable to go like damageless and that's an owl dude. Is that an owl dude? Look at him, he's funky fresh. I checked out some of the gacha at this point, and if you've gachaed before, you'll know what this gacha is like. It's gacha. There are plenty of missions and events to net some extra pulls to get weapons or operators. Like with the launch bonus, you can get up to 135 free pulls, 6-star operator Ardelia, and some 6-star weapons too through the various banners and promos. After whaling, I was then introduced to the AIC factory building mechanic, which is the system to gather materials for crafting and whatnot. This system can be a bit complex, but a blueprint system allows you to generate a few structures with ease to just ensure that you're still gonna get mats. I know for a fact that people are gonna min-max this and create some crazy things, but even if you don't feel like watching a 30-minute tutorial, you should still be able to hook up some zip lines for transport or gather resources before building up to fully automated production lines. I swapped to the next account here to check out the first boss. This one had more characters, so I got to check out Yvonne, who has some nice assets. It didn't drop me directly into the boss and instead a little lead up to it. You'll meet up with Rosina, who has a cute accent.
You are the one.
and she'll lead you around the mining camp before it gets invaded. Her and her bro hold off the invaders while you head to the anchor spawning the baddies. This introduces a new section where you have to duck inside fancy bubbles made of originium to avoid shockwaves being sent out by the big ol' evil crystal. This was the first instance, and as such, it was pretty basic and tame. You run to a bubble, wait for a wave, run to the next bubble. They have a couple that move or break after a wave, but there wasn't much more going on than that. Might get more complex later on, of course, and you can always try and skip a few bubbles if you maximize your sprint usage correctly. After bubbling and battling, you get up to the boss arena, and I got to really try out my new team. The boss itself had a nice presentation. The first part would throw out some big attacks, but it did a nice job of distracting you so it was less obvious when like charge skills or even follow-ups were coming out. Admittedly, I think I played worse with this team. It was a pretty cryo-focused team designed on grouping up enemies and freezing them to deal congested AoE damage to multiple foes at once, or just lock people in place. Most of their combos triggered off of freezing or incapacitating foes, with one operator being designated towards healing. The only issue was that I was used to Endman throwing out skills immediately, and two of these were passive and one had like a large windup, so it was kind of difficult to cancel some charges, but that was mostly just because I was unfamiliar with the characters. In stage 2, it starts off nuking the arena and you can only dodge it via a sapling similar to the section leading up to it. It'll summon ads, which might be ironic to talk about in this vid, but luckily as mentioned, this team was great at grouping up enemies to clear them all out at once. This was definitely a more active fight than anything else, since dodging blindly could punish you due to the shockwaves expanding back, so a normal back dodge will just hop right into the damage. Stage 3 had the boss turn invisible, making you unable to lock on, and the attack telegraphs were hidden. I think the boss fights is really where the combat and gameplay shine, since normal enemies are mostly just fodder for practicing effective DPS. I wasn't really vibing with regular encounters, but the bosses drew me in a lot more. The next account was right before the second major boss and had an awesome cutscene of characters coming together to battle it out, but since I have just been sampling, I only noticed like 3 of them, and the rest were certainly there and part of the scene. I'm sure this would have a much bigger impact if I had done everything leading up to it, but even as an outsider essentially, I enjoyed the animations. Not to mention Evil Woman! That's always a plus in my book, even if she does activate a pile of rocks to try and kill me. Now with a bit of experience, I was more efficient at fighting. In stage 1, you just knock down tendrils to expose a core, and then Stage 2 has them take on a more humanoid appearance and start throwing out combos. They use a lot of charge skills, and I still struggled to get the timing to counter them, so I definitely suggest an instant offensive skill user for this fight. Dang it, Yvonne, just throw the grenade out, stop wiggling! The Marble Menace will do a lot of jump attacks, making it difficult to time dodges if you're solely looking for the normal red shine telegraphs. Sometimes they'll even rain down rubble, and you gotta focus on dodging the debris. It's not too difficult, I dropped them without dying, but I think it's a good test of the core mechanics and reaction time. In the 4th account, I was able to visit the new map Wuling, with a nice enjoyable raft ride to a ruined and rainy area. Outside the gates of the city, you help stave off some new enemy types made of jelly instead of stone, before not naked green goddess becomes the storm that is approaching and leaves. Then you actually get to see the city, and it's got a nice vibe going on. Obviously pulling from a lot of Asian architecture designs, but still keeping a sort of futuristic and mechanical theme a lot of the nearby locales use, so it doesn't really feel out of place. Once you head up to the main pillar, you go inside this awesome shifting green holographic chamber thing that like has a display of the whole city, both from its skybox seats and, you know, the like scaled holographic map of the city that you can pretend to be a giant in. The final account was just done. It had everyone unlocked, the missions were all done, and you got to just do whatever you wanted around the map. The environments are just gorgeous and filled with various missions or minigames and regional mechanics. I like the little hacking SOS thing where you essentially just shove some Tetris pieces to fill gauges. I messed around with the building mechanics a little bit before I got yelled at for placing too many zip lines. Then after exploring a little, I found a little combat maze where you had to find a few holographic keys in order to unlock a chest. And since I was trying out new characters, it was a good test of a new crew. At launch, the game is going to have 24 different operators you can get with diverse classes and skills. I was enjoying this team of Ember, Dapon, Enmin, and Chen, since it was very action-focused and everyone had very satisfying attacks and sound effects. Plus, I mean, come on, Dapon literally smacks people with a giant wok. You gotta have him on your team, man. Look at this unit. The game is now out on PS5, PC, and mobile, so be sure to check it out since it's free! And if you don't, Dapon will be sad. So do it!